Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to review episode 1 of season 9 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And as they're doing the introductions and the bylines, we learned that Sheree has gotten her peach back. So yay for Sheree. She's back officially back on the team. So the show opens up and we have Candy, Todd, and baby Ace. And so she's pretty much talking about how their lives have changed since Ace was born. He was born on January 16th, 2016. And I thought it was funny that, they get up and they take him into the bathroom and put him on the toilet using one of those little potty seats. And he can't even sit up. And I'm sitting there saying, girl, are you for real right now? And so evidently she had been posting this on Instagram or something, because she did make the comment that people were talking about the fact that she was trying to potty train him, but she knows what she's doing. She did it with Riley, and so Candy was on Watch What Happens Live along with Dr. Jackie last night, and Andy brought up the whole potty training thing. And so he asked Dr. Jackie, what age do babies normally begin to get potty trained? And she said 18 months. Now, even though I don't think Candy was correct in starting the baby before he could even sit up, once my kids learned to walk, which was probably around, I'm thinking about 8 months, they started, to walk and be able to sit up and use a sippy cup. That's when I started potty training them, because if you could walk around holding the cup, then you can go and use the potty chair. So even though I think before they can sit up on their own is too early, I think starting to potty train a child at 18 months is way too late. That's ridiculous. And so Todd and Candy, they weren't really on the show that much. So there was another scene where I think Candy was getting ready for Kenya's housewarming party, which we'll talk about later. And she had, like, one of the confessional scenes, and she was basically talking about how everybody's relationships were falling apart. Phaedra's getting the divorce. I don't think Portia's dating anybody. Cynthia and Peter are on the rocks. And then we know that Kenya and Matt, they're having issues that involve domestic violence or something. So it was sort of like, are you concerned, or are you just trying to cheer yourself on that you and Todd are happy and you got your baby. So next we have Kenya, and we're over at Moore Manor, and things aren't quite done at Kenya's house, but she's insisting that she's going to have a housewarming party in 2 weeks. And the camera's going through the house, and you can tell that the plumbing's not in, there's no bathtub, sinks, the flooring isn't done, and there's just like a whole lot of work that needs to be done at Moore Manor. But she says she's going to pull it together in the 2 weeks so she can have her housewarming. And her biggest concern isn't that her house isn't finished, but the fact that she doesn't want Sheree coming over there and talking about her. Because if you remember from last season, they had this bet going where about who was going to be in their house first, or if Sheree was going to be in her house by Christmas, or some dumb bet that they had. So Kenya's worried about what Sheree is going to think if her house isn't finished. And you remember at Kenya's house, she has that really steep driveway. So it's like 2 days before the housewarming party, and she's finally getting that driveway paved. And so I don't know how good that's going to work out. Is concrete really going to be set that fast, for people to be driving on it? We go over to Chateau Sheree, and Sheree's house is beautiful. I mean, it is probably 3-4 times bigger than what Kenya house looks like, and she is not furnished, and I don't think it's finished all the way, but it's way further along than Kenya is. And so she has a guy there, and he's an interior decorator, and they're walking through the house, and she's giving him ideas for what she wants as far as countertops and furniture. She's going into her the closets, and she has a his and hers walk-in closets, and the guy asks about Bob, and she says that her and Bob are still just friends. And her 2 kids, the daughter, I think it was the youngest daughter, she's really grown up, and when they showed the picture of her, I thought it was Cynthia's daughter, Nicole. So the son, he's turned into be a really handsome young man, and the youngest daughter, really pretty. Like I said, I thought she was Noelle, so she may go on to be a model or something. So, yay for Sheree, you finally got it together, girl. Next, we have Portia, and she arrives at Phaedra's house, and they're both, dressed really nice in these white dresses. So I'm thinking they're getting ready to go somewhere, but I guess they were just going to have tea and crumpets for lunch or something. So, Phaedra's son, I think the oldest one name is Aiden. He comes and he opens the door. He's playing around with Portia, and so Portia comes into the house, and her and Phaedra, they're talking, and Phaedra's letting her know that she has like 30 days before her divorce from Apollo is final. So, it's official. Phaedra has moved on. She's not gonna wait for Apollo. So they get to talking about online dating. And Phaedra says she doesn't think she's gonna be about the online dating because she found out that those men on Christian singles meet, that they're off the chain. And so I kind of agree with Phaedra. I don't think I could ever do online dating either. So as they're sitting there talking and chatting and catching up, someone rings the doorbell, and Phaedra goes to answer the door, and it's this white guy. He's decked out in a white tuxedo with a black top hat, and I think he had a horse and carriage or something. And he hands her this pillow, and on the pillow is an invitation, and it turns out to be the invitation to Kenya's housewarming party. And so it's for Phaedra and plus one. And so Phaedra asks Portia if she was going to go to the housewarming, and Portia said, I doubt if I was invited. So then Phaedra said, okay, well, you could be my plus one. So they're gonna bring the drama. We already know that. We learned that Cynthia and Peter have been separated for about 5 months. He's living in North Carolina, and of course, she's back in Atlanta. And Cynthia's pretty much made up her mind that she's ready to get a divorce. And so she goes to see a lawyer. She's asking about her options. And so the guy tells her, first she needs to do a legal separation. And during the legal separation, even though they have a prenup, they need to work out the financial parts of it. And so Cynthia tells him that the only thing she wants from the marriage is her house, because it was her house before they got married. And so the guy said, it's still best to put everything on paper. And so he's outlining the timeline and what else she needs to do, and that she probably could, the divorce could be finalized, I think he said in like 5 or 6 months or something like that, as long as Peter is agreeable, to getting the divorce. So later on in the show, Cynthia, she's going through her home office and she's looking for some papers, and then she decides to FaceTime Peter. And so, Peter gets on the phone and he's just like being really nasty and sarcastic, and he's asking her, what are you calling me? Why are you FaceTiming me? And I'm here with my woman and my new relationship and all of this. And she's like, are you serious? Did I catch you at a bad time? And then he's like, what do you want? And so she tells him that she's looking for the prenup. When she asks about the prenup, he said, go ask your mom where the prenup is. So then we get a flashback to their wedding. And if you recall, Mel and the mom, they were trying to hide the marriage license. So that's what he's referencing. So it's, after that, he realizes that Cynthia is serious. And then he changes his tone, and he lets her know that the only thing he wanted from the marriage was for them to be together forever. But obviously that's not going to happen. So if you remember at the reunion show at the end of last season, everybody was on Portia about her anger issues. So she did go into therapy, and we learned that she's been in therapy for about 4 months now, and she goes to see a guy named Dr. Smith. And so she's having one of her visits, and she's explaining to him that about she's going to the party with Phaedra, and she wants to be able to control herself when she's around the girls, and to be able to let things roll off her back. And from that, we learned that Portia was bullied as a child coming up. She said that people used to make fun of her, about being skinny, that she had really big teeth, and all this other stuff was going on. And she admits that the bullying was to the point where she actually wanted to commit suicide. And we know we have a lot of that going on in today's society, which is way more prevalent than it was when we were kids. And so, I applaud Portia, for trying to get help and, wanting to deal with her issues. And the Dr. Smith guy, he tells her that when she's in situations where she feels like she's losing control, she has to remember the legacy that she wants to live in her business ventures and her career, and that, the people that she's dealing with should not be more important than maintaining her image to, continue doing the things that she wants to do with her life. So we're back at Chateau Sheree, and Sheree is there with her daughter, Tiara, I think her name is, and she's walking Tiara through the house and, telling her what all needs to be done and, how excited she is, and so she gets a phone call and it's Kenya on the phone, and Kenya's calling to invite her to the housewarming party, and so they're still being catty and shady with each other, and Kenya's like, she would have sent the horse and carriage with the personalized invitation over to Sheree's personally, but she didn't know where Sheree lives, because the house isn't ready and all this other stuff, and she didn't know where, Sheree is laying her head. So when she hangs up the phone, Sheree and her daughter look at each other and they're like, she's being childish and petty, and don't worry about it. It's good that, she claims she's trying to rise above, but we know it's not going to last long. So it's the day of Kenya's housewarming party, and okay. Staging is a great thing, and Kenya pretty much has a stage for us, and it's looking like the house is further along than it really is, but we know it's not. And so remember the steep driveway. Well, the guests, they're struggling. They come, they're all dressed up, and they don't drive up the hill to the house. They're like being let off at the bottom of the hill. They're parking, down on, I guess it's a road that leads to Kenya's house. So they're down at the bottom and they have to walk up this steep, steep, steep hill. And when I tell y'all it's a steep hill, it is a steep hill. Kenya should be ashamed of herself. I mean, she needs like an escalator, like one of them steep escalators that take you from, like, if you're on one floor, you need to go 5 floors up. The escalator will take you on that long ride, or conveyor belt or something. But that's what Kenya needs to get her guests up to this house. So Cynthia, actually before the guests started to arrive, Cynthia came early to help her out. And Cynthia lets us know by her reaction that she doesn't think this is a good idea that Kenya is having this housewarming party and the house isn't ready. And so the camera's going around, and when they put the camera on the floors, now I'm no expert, but those floors look like some cheap pergo that Kenya had put down. I'm like, girl, if you're going to have this house and put on this air like you got it going on, the least thing you could have done was had like some real hardwood floors. But these things look like they were the peel and stick pergo that you lay down on your floor, and I thought that was really tacky. As Kenya and Cynthia are talking, there's some balloons, and Cynthia, inquires about the balloons, and there's a note attached, and we find out that Matt actually sent the balloons with a note congratulating Kenya on the housewarming. And so then she starts talking to Cynthia about, when she first got the house, she wasn't in a relationship, but then, once she met Matt and she fell in love with Matt, she thought that, he was going to be the one that she was going to share the house with. And we get like flashback scenes of, happier times with the two of them. So Cynthia seems to be pretty hopeful that Matt and Kenya will be able to work it out, but I'm not so sure about it. So we're back to the party, and like I say, the guests are, they're struggling to get up that walkway. And so when Sheree arrives, she's like, oh my Jesus, so she takes off her shoes, because she had on high heels, and she takes off her shoes, and she struggles to get up to the top of this hill. So we know when Sheree gets up in their house and starts checking out what's going on, that we're going to get the real story. And so I think she tells Kenya, I think Kenya came for Sheree first, about Sheree's house not being ready. And then Sheree, lets her know that her house is further along, and she tells Kenya that her master suite is bigger than Kenya's entire house. So they make a few little jabs with each other, and then Kenya walks away. And then I think Sheree and Cynthia, they're walking together and talking, and they're saying how, the house is nicer outside. The outside sitting area is much nicer than what's going on inside the house. And they were talking about, it was really hot outside, so they wanted to go inside. So then we get inside, and Sheree still doesn't have her shoes on, but she's standing on top of, Kenya has one of those the air conditioned vent, is blowing up through the floor. And so she's like standing on the air conditioned vent, I guess trying to cool herself off. And so not too much is going on at Kenya's party. And So the scene goes to Portia, she's picking up Phaedra, and they're already lit. Okay, they're on 10 already, so we can only imagine what's going to happen when they get to this party and things really get to jumping off. Candy arrives to the party, and she's with a friend of hers. I think she said the lady's name was Lena. I've never met, seen her before. I heard them talk about her. And so Kenya decides to take everybody on the tour of the house, and so as they're walking through the house, Sheree says that the invitation should have came with a hard hat because something, might fall and hurt them because this house is so unfinished. And once again, Kenya shouldn't have had this housewarming party knowing that her house wasn't ready to be seen by everybody. Downstairs, we have Portia and Phaedra. They've arrived to the party, and then we get this other scene where folks got to struggle to get up this walkway. And I was looking at the walkway, and I don't know if it was like a design in the concrete or something, but it just didn't look right. It didn't look nice. Like I said, I don't know if 2 days was enough days for the concrete to dry, or is it some custom made concrete where she has like lines and veins ingrained in the cement or something. If it's supposed to look that way, but from the angle we had on TV, it did not look nice. So when Phaedra and Portia, they finally make it upstairs and they make their grand entrance, and everybody is like, oh my God, Sheree sees them first and she's ready, she's ready to go pop up some Jiffy popcorn, and sit back and relax and watch the show. And then Cynthia, she's like, oh my God, why is Portia here? Why did she come? So they already know it's going to be some mess. And I think the show ends with Kenya coming out and realizing that Portia is there, and that was the end of the show. And then when we see the scenes for next week, we learn that there's another surprise guest that's going to show up at the party. So that was it. There was nothing really exciting going on in the show. It was just like a reintroduction to let us know where everybody are in their life from when the season ended last time. And so if you like what you see, leave your comments, something you want to share or that I missed, go ahead and write it below. Rate, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I am going to review Married to Medicine next, so make sure you check that out also. Take care. Bye-bye.